Oh, it's kind of like, no, I don't hear it now. It was like it was kind of messing up and then it went away.
Yeah, my system is having a few tech issues today. It
Hmm.
was sounding different to me. Well, our folks that won't be live listening, they'll get it on the podcast. You want me to try it
Yeah.
again? You want to dance a little more, or you want to just say we're good and
I
we're here?
think we pivot. I think we pivot. You can do a little dance if you want to, if it makes you feel good, bring a little movement into your body. And I
Mm,
think we pivot through the occupational wellness, and that's what we're talking about today.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's always the fun thing about being live, right? If your
Mm,
system starts to have issues, which mine did about 5 minutes before we went live, you don't know
right.
what's going to happen when you press that button.
Mm. Don't get cocky. Don't think it's episode 161 and you have everything figured out because
Right?
it's always it's always different, right?
I always call it like little gremlins in my computer. It's like,
Mm,
oh, something's happening.
yeah.
So it's about time for a checkup, I think.
How often do you do those?
And not as often as I should, probably.
Right?
So
We have an amazing guest for you guys today. She says life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. That's Forrest Gump, right? Forrest's mom with that wise wisdom for us.
right. Well,
So
I've been traveling. Our listeners know I've been traveling. And
yes.
often what happens when I travel is some of the folks that I live with like to come in and use my computer for gaming.
Mm,
And depending on what
about the
games they
games.
download or don't download, depends if, I get some little hanger on things or if my storage gets too full. And,
Mhm.
since I've gotten home, I've been running 90 to nothing. So I haven't had a chance to check all those systems, but it's very
Mm,
obvious it's time
that makes
for
sense.
that checkup. So,
That makes
should
sense.
we do our official intro so we
Yes.
can get this show officially kicked off?
Let's do it. Hi,
Let's do it.
y'all. I'm Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial entrepreneur and Amazon bestselling publisher, author, and all natural product manufacturer. I'm a champion for your natural self care, sustainable business care, and overall intentional wellness.
Hi, y'all. I'm Christine Gotro, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, Amazon bestselling author and publisher, and a dancing social worker who helps you upgrade your self and community care.
Together, we are a podcast rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness and the co founders of the Women Connected in Wisdom community.
And we like to get together every week with special expert guests for intentional conversations about how to be wise in business and relationships and wellness. How do we do it
Yes.
all?
Yes, and I'm super excited about our conversation today. We're talking about podcast strategy with heart, right? And yes, again, talking about episode 161, it's important to hold on to your why and um, the passion behind why you do it.
Right?
Yeah.
I usually we check in with each other and ask each other how you are, but
Yeah.
instead of asking the normal question, I
Okay.
just want to say
Mm.
gratitude because we got to see each other in person last night, which
Yes.
rarely happens in the middle of the
Mm.
week.
That's a
So, shout out for you and Pharaoh coming out last
yes.
night. I was supporting our author and our friend, Dr. Sheila K. Collins, with her new book launch, The Art of Grieving, how the
Mhm.
arts and art making help us to grieve and live our best lives.
I got my copy.
Right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so we were doing a performance with the Interplay Atlanta Soul Print Players, which, whew, when we talk about how to do it all, like I realized I'm still kind of savoring that last night because we had not performed in person. We've done some online performances, but we have not performed in person since before the pandemic. And it was our first time together last night. And it was so fun to have you in the audience.
Mm.
Think about our connections with podcasting, with our books, with Sheila being one of our authors in our first
Yes.
compilation book. Like just the connections upon connections upon connections, and
Yeah.
gratitude for that.
Right. And that's what I was thinking. And this is the part where like as a leader or a business owner or a woman doing something as at for the first time, not everybody's going to have this experience, right? I was thinking about Sheila being your professor, right? And then here she comes and invites you to be her co-author in the, what do you call it? Not the upgraded version, the updated version of
Yeah,
Still Point, right?
yeah.
And so now you guys are co-authors, and
Hmm.
now we're all co-authors in Women Connected in Wisdom,
Yeah.
right? So I'm thinking, as my position as a young Black woman, I can say that Dr. Sheila K. Collins and Christine MSW, right, are co-authors with me, and then we have Connected in Wisdom Press. So she's on our team for that. And the fact that we've done all this and not even been in the same room and able to
Right.
have conversations around the world.
Right. Because you just
Yeah.
you met her in person for the first time last night.
Yes, yes,
But you've been in relationship with her for 3 years. Well, she was one of our very first guests on the podcast.
she was. So, yeah, 3 years going on 4, probably 3. We'll count it 3. Yeah,
Yeah.
yes. And so
Um,
it's just beautiful to watch how, what if Christine as a student hadn't talked to her professor? You know what I
well, and
mean?
let me do a mild correction because I
Okay,
was
please.
not her student.
Okay,
She
yes,
was a
correct me.
professor when I met her. How
Mm,
we actually met was a National Association of Social Workers conference. She
mm,
was actually a workshop presenter for her
mhm.
first version of Still Point, talking about self care when
Yeah.
self care was not talked about. I
Mm,
mean, this was 25, 30 years ago.
okay.
And so she was training up all these baby social workers and sending them out into the world without the skills to stay, really. And
Mm,
so this book was born out of that. And
mhm.
I was actually at Stephen F. Austin State University in Nacogdoches, Texas, and she was at the University of Texas in Arlington.
Thank you.
And we met in
Mm,
Houston.
mm,
I was in awe at a
yeah.
workshop conference. I stood in line and I bought her book. And she hates this part of the story, but it was I was a broke college kid putting
Okay.
myself through college.
Yeah.
So it was a week's worth of groceries. And she's like, "Oh my god, I hate when you tell that part. It wasn't that expensive." I'm like, "I was eating ramen noodles. It didn't
It
have to
was a
be
week's
that."
worth of groceries. That's what it was. The number is the number, right?
But I was so excited. I stood in line to get her book.
Yeah.
She signed the book, and we went our opposite way. She does not remember meeting me because
Mm.
there was a line of people.
Right, right.
She went back to Dallas Fort Worth area. I went back to DB, Texas, thinking I would never see her again because this was pre-internet. I'm dating myself,
Mhm,
but this was
mhm.
pre-internet, pre-ways that we now are so ingrained of how we connect. Back then, if you didn't get somebody's mailing address and landline, you didn't stay in touch with them. And back then, professors did not give that out to
That's a good
everybody.
point.
So
No.
I didn't think I'd ever see her again.
Right.
And this is the part of the story that we can't remember because it was so many years ago.
Yeah.
I then get invited to a women's spirituality retreat in Deep East, Texas by one of my mentors, Glenda Taylor. And I had been going to her fellowships of comparative religion groups, and she invited me to this retreat. And I was the baby. I mean, because I was 24 at the time. And so I walk into this retreat, and who is one of the founding members of the circle but Dr. Sheila K. Collins?
Mm.
And we became retreat sisters, we became colleagues, we became friends, and that all grew from there. So, yeah, she has been a teacher to me and a mentor to me for 25 years, but she wasn't officially my professor. So,
Thank you for making sure the background is correct.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's aligned the way it's supposed to be aligned. It's beautiful, and I do remember it. And we have to. I hear you on the least favorite part, but we have to include all of it. And your financial chapter is back to basics. People got to know, like, this is where it was. It was $10. It was $20, and it was worth it.
Right. Because that book, we were talking about I was on a class that I was teaching with Sheila this week about radical self and community care that we teach
Hmm.
every week. But we were talking about the art of grieving because she was coming into town and doing this
Right.
presentation, and we're presenting at a conference this Friday. And it came up about like our whys or like losses that have then given us gifts,
Mhm.
right? And what I realized, that book of Still Point, I mean, her first version changed my life. But to be invited to be her co-author and why it's such a passion for me is when I was 14, my grandmother, who was a caregiver, died. And the doctor felt like it was from stress of
Mhm.
caregiving for 3 years and not taking care of herself. And so I didn't even put that all together until
Mhm.
years later, after we wrote Still Point, when we're talking about the gifts of grief, when we're talking about, and really through our conversations here on the podcast, like, you know, and I can't wait to talk to our guests today because this is what we're talking about. Like the
Yes.
power of connection, the power of podcasting, the fact
Mhm.
that you and I are even in this room together, like,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Mm,
Let's go into it. Let's go into it.
do it.
So, y'all, occupational wellness is what we're talking about today. You want to do the definition and then I'll read our expert's bio?
I love it. Occupational wellness represents living in the purpose, passion, and productivity in one's chosen profession.
Mm.
This includes work life balance, as a fulfilling and productive professional life is fitting to weave together with a healthy personal life. So we always put it into the balance, right? Because
Right.
sometimes you can't have that,
Mhm.
especially as a woman in our society.
Right.
But knowing that sometimes we're striving for that, even though that's not what we get, and that
Right.
different things highlight at different times. But
Mhm.
what pops out at you of this definition today?
Is the purpose and the weaving together. What I'm super excited right now about is feeling like I am in my purpose. I love helping people, right? And when I was younger, I feel like I helped people to a detriment. It was in a way of giving my power away. It wasn't healthy, right? You shouldn't help every single person that um you have the opportunity to. Sometimes it's a yes, sometimes it's a not right now, and balancing that, the quotes, right? Balancing that is important. So I would say purpose and weaving it together, because we know I've been talking about updating the logistics, and sometimes it's the helping people, and that might be paid or unpaid, right? We'll talking about monetizing podcasts today, doing different things intentionally in occupational wellness. But sometimes it has to be the other stuff in there. It has to be the admin. It has to be the organizing the receipts. So purpose and weaving together stick out to me. What
Mm,
about for you?
I love that. Yeah, I just always feel grateful. I
Mhm.
really have gotten to create a life that I love. That includes travel. It includes embodiment. It includes podcasting and the weaving together, I think, because it's already started. It's conference season, it's speaking season. I'll be traveling and doing conferences and taking Women Connected and Wisdom along as we go.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
be podcasting from different places, and just grateful that I get to do that and have fun. And it can be challenging. I mean, I don't want to make it
right,
all rosy glasses, but
right.
it is it is a joy
Mhm.
to get to be on purpose and do what I love.
Yeah. And that's been the biggest thing, conversation, let's say the thread of a conversation that's been going through different teams that I've been talking to, right? Is that you have to pick your heart. It's not always going to be rainbows and unicorns. Things are sometimes going to be difficult. But when you're in purpose, when you're aligned, when you're doing what you love, it can definitely make it easier.
Love it.
So, y'all, today we are talking to Aeoliana Elliott. And Aeoliana Elliott is a podcast strategist for female entrepreneurs looking to launch their podcast with authenticity and integrity while maintaining some balance. Help us welcome to the stage Aeoliana.
Hi.
Hello, ladies. How
Hello.
are you?
Amazing. Excited for you to be here.
I'm excited. This is going to be fun.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
Yes.
This is our jam. We
I I
we
love it.
love podcasting, as you can tell.
I love it.
tell us your
I'm so here for it. I'm so excited. Thank you.
tell us your podcasting origin story. How did you get into podcasting?
Okay, so my origin story. It's funny you say origin story because I'm really into Marvel. So it's a blast to say origin story. Okay, so in 2015 I started listening to podcasts. true crime podcast for the most part, mainly for entertainment. In 2019, 2020, I was working for a law firm, and I got fired. Actually, 2017, no, 2019. I'm forgetting my dates. Anyway, so I was in the hospital. I had a double kidney infection, and the law firm I was working for fired me while I was
Wow.
in the hospital. So we had to pivot, got a quick job, working for a construction company, whatever. Then something fun like COVID occurred. Because I was working in an office setting and there was only three or four of us there, and we were 6 feet apart, and construction was considered an essential job. I was not able to work from home or do any of that. So I was still driving to the office. It was about a 45-minute drive back and forth. So in entered podcasts once again. And so I started listening to podcasts, not so much for the entertainment value, but more for learning. Like, I don't want to keep doing this. I don't know, with COVID, everything was up in the air. My husband ended up working from home. His company moved him working from home. And I knew there had to be something other than what I was doing. Like, I had to figure out something else to do. So I started learning about how to do VA work. So I did that for a little bit. Then how to do podcast management, editing, publishing, all that. Then I was helping clients with that. And I had somebody tell me, hey, you actually do a lot with the strategy part of it. So you should work on just the strategy because you really help with the mindset, figuring things out, things like that. And so that's what I did. And in end of 2022, I started my business, Top Shelf Virtual Services, and I've just dove in headfirst into just helping as many podcasters as I can learn their authentic voice, find their authentic voice, be who they truly are, and share the message that they have. Because I'm a big believer in, if you have something tugging at your heart, if you have a message that's tugging in your heart, it's because someone out there needs to hear it. So I'm a big believer in, I try to live my life with as much balance as I can. Um, and I'm actually working on, I don't know if I told you ladies this, but I'm actually working on a framework where I infuse balance, communication, authenticity, mindset, and empowerment, all
Mhm.
as part of helping people launch their podcast. Because the tech stuff is interesting, but I think the mindset and feeling empowered and being our authentic selves is so much more important than how you edit or how you
Right.
record, how you
Right.
publish. So
Right.
that's my word. Now I'm a
I
paralegal working from home and doing podcast strategy as well. So
I love that. Well, and I don't know what the statistics are today, but it used to be, and you may know this, but it's like most people, the average episodes they have are less than 8.
yeah,
Um,
it's about 10. Yep. About
yeah.
75% of podcasts don't go past 10 episodes.
And why do you think that is?
Um, Honestly, what I've seen and what I think is that they don't have the right foundations in place. And podcasting is a long-term game. So if you think that you're going to go viral with 3 episodes, it's not like that. It's like a blog. You have to put in the time, put in the effort. It's a labor of love. You have to put into it more at the beginning than anything else. And I think if you don't know what your purpose is in what you're doing, what you're not for money, not for clicks, not for views, not for, whatever downloads, but why you're really doing it, why you're passionate, why you're pursuing that. What's the message you're trying to get out there? What type of lives are you what type of transformation are you looking to make in other people? If you don't know that, when the downloads are low and no one's listening, you're not going to want to push forward and keep going and keep sharing that message. And I mean, a lot of the times it's that last episode that you do that's the one that somebody resonates with, or the one that you think is messy where your audio doesn't work the right way, or you're fumbling your words, or you're stuttering, or things like that. Those are the ones that usually resonate the most, because everybody wants to relate to you. And that's another thing that I love about podcasting. It's so real. You can't fake it. You can't fake you can't fake a podcast. I mean, I guess now maybe with AI we're getting there, but
That'd be
that's what.
crazy.
Yeah, right. That was the beauty of podcasting, is like you had someone in your ear, and someone can't fake their voice. You can't fake the inflections. You can't fake the excitement. When you're talking about something that really fires you up and really excites you. And so, yeah, I just think people don't have any idea of what truly they want to impart in this world, what their purpose is.
Yeah, it is one of those things that I feel so grateful that, pretty early on. I mean, and part of, we talked about the origin story with Sheila earlier, but meeting that group of women when I
Yeah.
was 24
Mhm.
set me on my path and my purpose very, like, I think about my gratitude there, right? And podcasting is just one of those modalities that
Mhm.
helps to do what I love to do. I was looking at something the other day. I think it was on. I can't remember if I was on Instagram or where it was talking. It was talking about, hey y'all, for all those that got in trouble when you taught when you were a kid in school for talking, what are you doing now? Right? And podcasters, speakers, like, was that true for y'all? Because I did. I got in trouble all the time for talking in school.
All the time. So much so that before we moved to Florida, I lived in Puerto Rico and I was in a Catholic school. And I actually had the nuns would actually tape my mouth shut. And all
Wow.
I did was, if I had to say something, I would take the tape off. I said what I needed to say and I put it back. But I went through years of like losing my voice for weeks because I got nodules in my voice box from talking so much. So yeah, like that that was my life. Yes.
Wow. I wouldn't say got in trouble for talking. What I do remember though is this physics teacher in high school. I would say I have a question and he would say no. And I would still ask my question. And that reminds me, Aeoliana, of you taking the tape off. Okay, it's here, but I'm gonna say what I need to say, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
I remember
So you,
I think it was second or third grade. I had a teacher, because in Puerto Rico they teach you English
mm,
as part of the curriculum. Everything's in Spanish, but they teach you English. And I remember I had this teacher, and I want to say it was third grade. She
mm.
was teaching, and just no thought, no nothing. I came out, I said, "You sound like a broken record." Like, because her voice was so annoying and so chirpy, and I was like, "You sound like a broken record," even without thinking. So
Mm,
yeah,
mm,
yeah, that was me.
mhm.
That was me growing
so
up.
you might be a podcaster.
Yes,
Got in
Yeah,
trouble in school for talking.
yes,
yes.
you might be, or if you were not already, you might need to be.
Right?
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
Why do you think people should become podcasters?
Um, I think, like I said, it's definitely a labor of love. It's definitely something that's long term. But if you have something that you want to share, a story, a message, whatever it is, something that's happened to you, something that you went through, like earlier, you guys were talking about grief. If you have something, it's a great tool to work through emotions, to work through situations. It's a great tool to learn. It's a great tool to teach. So if you fall into any of these categories, you could be a great candidate for having a podcast. If you have a subject or a topic where you know if you felt, how do I say this? if you have a topic or a situation where you went through it and you know if you had support behind it, it would have been a lot easier to get through it. Um, that's a great topic for podcasting. Um, and I think a lot of people think that when you do a podcast, you have to do like I need to do like 1,000 episodes. I've seen podcasts where the podcaster literally was just, I'm going through grief and I need to put this in a format to help other people. And it's only a season or two while they're going through the grief. And then when they're done with the grief, it's over. But now it's out there and it's helping people and it's showing people that, I'm not alone. And I think that's the biggest thing with podcasting is when you realize that you're not alone and you can share that with other people. That's that's what's it for me.
I love that. One of our, and we've had several mic drop moments in this 162 episodes. Where are we at? I think I got that number wrong, but
61.
thank you.
Got you.
But one of the ones that always sticks with me is when we did the episode about palliative care, and
Hmm.
we were literally live. We were talking to an expert on palliative care, and a grandmother who was never had been one of our listeners before was caught us on YouTube, and her grandson had just been given palliative care, and she thought it was hospice, and she thought he was dying. And
Hmm.
the expert we had on cleared that up, really like answered her questions live and in the moment. It was so powerful. We didn't even know, like, I don't know about you, Shannon, but that one sticks with me. We've had a couple like that, but that one, like, just us being there in that moment.
Mhm. For me, it was one of the reasons why we do Women Connected in Wisdom, right? For me as a young woman to be able to have this platform for a grandmother to get clarity and peace of mind and information and resources and access to expert teams and everything that comes with that is a huge win, right?
Hmm.
For me, what it showed me, I know you usually talk about it for her. When I think about it, it showed me what we find out in a lot of different places, that no matter the age, you could still be there. She as a grandma was there, and I was there as a daughter, right? When my mom was sick and Warren, her partner, told me, hey, they're talking about hospice, when things would be suggested for my mom, I thought it was almost like, oh, she's not strong. It's like, oh no, she's fine, she doesn't need a wheelchair, no, she's fine, she doesn't need hospice. But that was my naivety and not having been through the situation before. That was a dinger. Hey, 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 you have T minus 4 weeks. You might have T minus 2 weeks. And the palliative care is so that the family can get taken care of, that person can get taken care of. The difference is that hospice doesn't always have the family care side, which is why we love palliative care and had her on, right? So it was, again, peace for knowing that just because you were a daughter, you don't have to feel guilty for not knowing these things. You didn't hold your mom in a place of being in pain longer. You just didn't understand what it meant. And a lot of people don't understand what it means. Grandmothers don't understand what it means. Women in general need these resources. And that's why I've been committed to be invested for the 161 episodes, because anytime you get in that position, it doesn't matter where you're from, how old you are, what industry you're coming from. If you need a resource for somebody you care about in that moment, you want to get connected to somebody who you know is going to care and knows what they're talking about.
Right?
Yeah, it was beautiful.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I'm gonna have to check that episode out. I actually did. I volunteered. My church did hospice slash palliative care together,
Mm, mm,
and it's true what you're saying about hospice is a lot of times, there's no support for the
mm,
family. Like
mm.
all the support is for the patient for however long they're in hospice care, and the
Right,
rest of the family is just left there. I mean, they're not only dealing with the illness or whatever's putting them in hospice, but then they have to deal with the loss of that person, and not having any support, not having anything there for
right.
them that's really difficult. That's a whole different life now that this person was here and now they're not. And I enjoyed doing that hospice palliative care. It was very fulfilling for me when I did it. Um, because just being able to see people, and actually the job that I have now, I'm a paralegal and we do elder care.
Beautiful.
um, we do, guardianships and,
Mhm.
help people through Medicaid and, things like that. And
Yes.
that's something that I'm right back to where, now my 9 to 5 is working in my purpose,
Mhm.
and my business is working in my purpose, and all of
Yes.
it is working with my passions. And it's all just come together in such a beautiful way.
Yes. I love that. And it's for me when we talk about intentionality, right? And occupational wellness is you knowing that and then being able to uh, what comes up is to feel that. Maybe feel that need is the most concise way I could say it without trying to figure out a more eloquent way. Um, but that's what I also realized in that episode was I hadn't considered the family care. I hadn't noticed that there was this huge opportunity, and oh yeah, there was nobody like, what about the other 4 people in the household, you know? So I love to be able to share it and for more of us to again widen our perception so we know what's available out there and tap into it.
And it's in situations like that, and in life in general, like going back to the balance thing,
Yeah.
when you're in it, you don't realize how much help you need. You don't think about, where can I get a resource for this? You don't think when you're in the thick of it, you don't think about taking care of yourself. You don't think about how the stress is going to affect you, or how the anxiety, or how the loss. You don't think about any of that. And for you guys to have had her on the show to let people know that there are resources, there are people out there that are here for you if you're in that situation, so you don't have to think about anything by yourself.
Right.
The resources are there. So
Mhm.
that's a really beautiful service. I think that's so great that you guys did that and had
Thank you
her
so
on.
much.
Well, and that was, I'm trying to remember if that was under emotional and mental wellness. I'm trying to remember what category it was under, but it was
We can
powerful.
find it.
It was
Yeah.
powerful, what I was going through with my dad. And I think about this in relation to why podcasting, right? Because
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
think about when you're a caregiver, like a lot of times you you when you can listen or when you can take in info is when you're washing the dishes or when you're doing the laundry or when you are cleaning up after somebody. And podcasting is such a great format for that. Or like when you were saying driving to and from work, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
um yeah, I'm thinking about, y'all give a shout out to your favorite podcast
Mhm.
and what like is a moment that impacted you.
Um, so I have a couple, but the very first mental health podcast that I listened to, her name's Simona, and her podcast is called Happiness Happens. And I actually, talk to her quite regularly. We're like Instagram friends and, stuff like that. She's very supportive and everything. But all of her episodes, in one way or another, she ends every episode asking people how they can infuse a little more happiness in their life each and every day starting that day. And I don't know, she has like, I don't know how many episodes she has. She's like 200, 300, I don't know. But she's never gotten the same answer twice. And she's talked to people from all walks of life, all different jobs, people, all different types of people, and
Beautiful.
just learning the different aspects of what the simplicity of happiness, and how it's something that we all strive for, thinking it's like this grandiose thing, and happiness can be found in the simplest moments.
Right.
Is I mean, it's one of my favorites. I subscribe and I still listen and I love it.
Oh, I
Ooh,
love that.
you. What about for you, Shannon?
Oh, I definitely have a couple, and we were talking about it before, right? I would definitely say archetypes, with Meghan
Yes.
Markle and her team. It's so good. And I love it. One, let's start with the name of it, right? Because when I found out about archetypes, this was something that really changed my life. I said outside of stereotypes, we know there's stereotypes, but wow, in the media that we consume, there are actual boxes and ways that and roles and character plays that continuously play out, and it's a different person, a different face, and it's the same thing, and that has helped me sift the information that I get because I can tell, nope, this is this archetype. This is what they're trying to tell me to do. It's okay. Um, and I love her podcast because of her personal stories. And I'll share how it's made my life better, right? I was telling the ladies before y'all when we were talking that I love this episode where Megan writes to, I can't remember who she writes to, but it's this platform that had a commercial about washing the dishes, and she felt like it was sexist, right? That they said that the woman would be washing the dishes with the dish gloves on, and that gloves should be for whoever is washing the dishes. And because I started Shalo Glow with the servers going to the dermatologist because of our hands being so dry, I knew my hands were dry when I went home after work from washing them so much in the hospitality industry, right? I said, I appreciate her bravery. She was so thoughtful to do that, right? And I need to get some gloves to wash my hands. So, archetypes, one of my favorites. What about you, Christine?
Well, I have several, but I
Yeah.
really the one that wants to be spoken about today is
Mm.
Paul Zelazer's Awarepreneurs. That
Yes.
he is an incredible human and talks about the intersection of business and social wellness and how you can be an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, or and really have social impact and how to do that. So, and
Yes.
he does a podcast success team, and yeah, so he has incredible guests, but then he also will do individual episodes
Yeah.
to help you focusing on your business and things like that. So,
Mhm.
I always love catching his episodes and
Yeah. And great
right.
guests on the shows and everything. So, talking about that, Aeoliana, that reminds me of a question I wanted to ask you. We talk about different people in different positions. Can we speak more to pursuing passions? How you help your clients, right? As a wife, as a mother, how do you make sure to include yourself in everything that you do?
I think realizing that whether you want to or not, you're included in everything. Like whether you think you are or you aren't, you're included in everything because you're. And I guess for me, when I'm my authentic self, when I'm true to who I am and what my passions are, what my loves are, what I like, what I don't like, when I'm true to that and I'm out of the people pleasing arena, things tend to work better. And so I think when I'm talking to my clients, one of the first things I tell them is to find their authentic voice, to
Hmm.
find who they truly are. Don't worry about what anyone has told you, don't worry about what anybody has said, oh, you sound like this or you sound like that. You
Yeah.
know, just tell your truth. And that's something that's come out a lot in the past few years is telling your truth. It doesn't have to be what anyone else agrees with. It doesn't have to be anything that anyone else sees as their truth. You don't need to convince anyone. Your truth is your truth. And sharing your truth, no one has to agree with it. Like I said, it's your truth, and you're sharing who you are. And I think getting shedding those masks of who we think we should be as women, as entrepreneurs, as um, wives, as mothers, as sisters, as daughters. We don't have to be anything for anyone else. We just have to be for ourselves. And whatever makes us happy, whatever makes our souls light up, that's what we need to do. And if we come into every situation with that in mind, I think regardless of what the situation is, we'll always be who we're meant to be. We'll
Yeah.
always be who, we'll always shine the way we're meant to shine.
Absolutely.
I'm big into human design. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm a projector. I'm a 5-1 splenic projector. So
Mhm.
this is my advisor, my guide, going in there and saying, just be who you are. You're
Yeah.
absolutely perfect just the way you are.
Yes. And that's what I feel like has helped me find purpose, right?
Mhm.
And I know that this is a question a lot of people struggle with and they wrestle with it. But when I like how you said, make your soul light up. That's how you know you're getting closer, and it's different for everybody. And a few years ago, me and my friends were talking, and I realized if you were not authentic, you'll never be number 1. And if you're competitive, right? Like, you'll never be the best person in that spot because that's not for you. Somebody
Right.
else who is naturally gifted, who was made to be that way, you're gonna be mad because 'cause they're not gonna do as much as you did in the same way that you would have done it, and you're gonna compare it, and you're gonna be disappointed because it
Right.
wasn't for you, you know? Um, and like we're talking about with podcasting, you never know which part of it is gonna resonate with somebody. That all you really can trust is that different parts are gonna resonate with different people.
Right.
So, sharing it authentically and, getting it out there is so important. I love how you say you help them with their authentic voice.
Mhm.
Outside of we know we talk about the places, right? Church, home, where you go to school, your environment. Where do you feel like they're speaking from? If they're talking to you and they're not in their authentic voice, where do you usually find them?
Usually it has a lot to do with trauma of some sort, whether it's little t or big T. Um, sometimes we've, and I don't like to use the word conditioned, but sometimes
Mhm.
we've been conditioned growing up, especially as women.
Yes.
You have to be small. You
Mhm.
you can't speak up. You can't have opinions. And if you have opinions, nobody cares. So growing up, and from a Hispanic background, so for us especially, it's always been something where the women stay home, take care of the kids. We don't speak up, we don't make waves, and if you make waves, then that's a problem. And so I think when you start stepping into that power, and that's where the empowerment comes in. When you step into that power and you realize that your voice is just as important as anyone else's. And whether you're male, female, whatever, it doesn't matter. Your voice, because it is who you are, and it's because it comes from you, is important. And what you have to say is important. And the more you try to push that voice down and you try to suppress it, the stronger it's going to get and the more it's going to want to get out. And that's because, like I said before, someone needs to hear what you have to say.
Yes.
Whether that's, someone who you're never going to meet or someone who you're going to become best friends with, it doesn't matter. That is there for a reason. God put that there. Universe put that there. Spirit put that there
Mm.
for a reason, to change someone's life. And if we don't step into that power, we're doing a disservice to everyone around us.
Yes. I
I
love it. And I hope that the listeners and the viewers are encouraged by it. Yes, yes. I have another question, and Christina, it
Yeah.
looks like you have a question before we go to wisdom and action.
Right. Well,
Oh,
I just have a poem I wanted to share because when you were talking about authenticity and you were talking about, you don't have to be a certain way. What, of course, bubbled up for me is one of my favorite poets, Mary Oliver.
mhm.
And I wanted to share her Wild Geese poem. Do y'all know her Wild Geese poem?
Is this the one that, who
Let me
was it?
read it to you. It's
Okay.
short. It's
Okay.
short. It's one of my favorite poems, and it really bubbled up when you were talking. Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are headed home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things.
Oh, that's beautiful.
When you were talking, that was the poem that was just like, yeah, we all have our voices, right?
Mm,
And we are in the whole family of things, and
yeah.
we can allow our voices to be heard.
Yes. I love the smooth pebbles of the raindrops. That was beautiful. And is a perfect segue into my question, right? So part of what we talked about too and you help your clients with is how to communicate to your family, right? I hear you on being a paralegal back into the industry and at home and stepping into your power, right? And we know doing the Amazon bestseller campaigns, working with authors, speakers around the world, this is something we support our ladies on too, you know? What advice or what would you say to bringing the family in on what you're doing?
I think it's important. I think if you have a family, you want them to feel like they're a part of it. And a lot of families, I mean, I know this isn't the same for a lot of families. Not everyone has support. But if your family is supportive, like they want to support you in whatever you need. So for me, it looks like, letting my husband and my son know when I'm recording or when I'm
Yes.
in an interview.
Yes.
Setting up family time outside of when I'm doing my podcasting
Mhm.
stuff. Um, you know, when I'm working, my son's here with me and, we can talk, we can chat.
Mhm.
Setting that time aside for just them. Um, you know, all of those things help your family feel involved. Um, they don't want to feel like they're a burden. They don't want to feel like they're in the way. And so if you include them in, I tell my clients sometimes set up a calendar and sit down as a family when you're doing your weekly calendar out or monthly, whenever you want to do this.
Mhm.
Calendar out the hours that you're going to spend with them, the time that you're spending with them, just family time that goes in first, and then your podcasting tasks or your business tasks, and then go from there, but make sure everyone's on the same page with what you're trying to accomplish. My son's actually been in here with me when I've recorded. I'd have my husband in, but he'd like be commenting and crying, and he's very emotional.
I love
I
it.
emotional one. um
Love it.
so he'd be like, I'm so proud of you and all this, and I'd be like,
Yes.
shh.
Right? Yes. Yes.
So if you have access to that and you can have them listen to you, I will send him my podcast episodes though. When I'm on them, I will send them to him for him to listen, and he always gives me his feedback.
I love
Um,
that.
but yeah, just include them. They want to be included. They want to be a part. It's a part of your life. They're a part of your life, and you just, infusing them together. Just that's where the magic happens.
Yeah. And we were talking about human design,
Mhm.
when I did mine and found out that I was an 8, right? Or, excuse me, that's
Enneagram.
actually Enneagram, thank you.
I'm a four.
But I did okay. I did both together, right? I did the Enneagram, I did the human design, and I said, "Okay, if I'm a challenger and I'm a leader in this way, and then I'm an
Hmm.
8 on the Enneagram and my energy doesn't like to be interrupted, that makes
Hmm.
sense," you know?
Yep.
So I definitely hear you on checking in. I try to do that on Tuesdays, right? If we're gonna
Yep.
spend a block of time on Wednesday before I pour out to the world, right? I make sure that we're full. And
Yep.
I love that you having your son in the office and doing different things like that. That sounds beautiful.
And it's funny
And
because in my house, we
yes.
have my husband and I are projectors, and my son is a manifester.
Mm,
So, and without knowing,
mm,
we've actually allowed him to be in his manifesting self
mhm.
without knowing that that's what he was. I just recently learned it, like maybe a couple months ago. And
Wow.
we've let him, do his own thing and make, he's only 12, but, do his own thing. And when he needs to rest, he rests. And, just when he starts projects, it's like, okay, I got to figure out he started, he's not supposed to finish. He's supposed to start, you
Mm,
know? So that's been a lot of fun too, is learning that part of it for him. Yeah, it's been great.
Beautiful. 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 So I saw our banner, Christine. Yes, wisdom in action.
Mhm.
So this week we're talking about occupational wellness, right? Podcast strategy with heart. What comes to mind for you, ladies, on what you're going to be intentional about this week for yourself? And I can go first if you want me to. We can do it however you want to. Okay. So I love what you said. Do I have a couple of hashtags? Let's see. Let me check. Let me check. I do. Oh, okay. So which one do I want? And actually, it's both. So Christine knows this. Sometimes I break the rule and do two, right? So hashtag you can do both because we're talking about doing both, taking care of the occupational stuff, right? Things for the businesses, but also making sure that you include yourself. And I am working on making sure I remember that as my logistics shift. And hashtag make your soul light up because it was the muting of my voice in this position. I said, "Oh no, I think I need to go." It's like earlier, one of the on the insurance call, one of my team members was talking about how when he saw this blocked out time blocked schedule, he felt like he was suffocating. And I said, the
Mhm.
suffocation is important to notice, because I love stuff like that. But the way it
Mhm.
was, I felt like I was suffocating. Like that was not lighting my soul up. But my work now, occupational wellness, where we are right now, those two things. Or what I'm putting energy and action towards. What about you, ladies?
I think for me, it would be stepping into my power.
Mm,
Stepping into speaking my truths, sharing my stories, sharing my wisdom, sharing my experiences, and not really sharing them for my benefit, but sharing them to see how it can benefit and help other people.
yes, and I saw your video on how you love to share and help, and that it's really a servant leadership position.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
completely understand that. I love that. Hashtag step into my power, speak my truth. Yes, yes. What about you, Christine?
Hmm. I'm really thinking about it because this is going to be a really busy season for me.
Yeah,
Between I'm speaking at the SOCA conference this Friday for
yeah.
the Southern Academy of Care for the state of Georgia, and then I'm heading out to Seattle for the National and International Leaders Gathering and doing
Oh,
work there. So my occupational wellness is
mhm.
actually remember to take care of yourself.
Yeah. That's
Like
so, yeah,
in
so good.
I mean, the occupational part is like, all right, it's on. You're doing what you want to do. But remember to take care of yourself, and as a piece of the occupational wellness. So, and you all know with my work with Still Point is really talking about radical self care so we can sustain and thrive in community care.
Yes.
And I'm
Mhm.
so lucky that my work and my occupation is about community care.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's what's really resonating with me today.
So do you, because we've been talking about it, right? And we've traveled a lot in the last few years. So when you say for the wisdom in action and the remember to take care of yourself, what action do you feel like you're putting in there? I know you have your water bottle and that's
Yep.
what you're measuring, right? What's
Yep.
coming to mind for you?
Well, honestly, right now in this season is resting.
Yeah.
Like to balance, like we talk about with occupational wellness, with the balance is making sure I'm getting enough rest.
Hmm.
Because my calendar's delightfully full right now.
Yes. I get
And sometimes rest can be sacrificed when it's that way. And
mhm.
really looking at, and we often talk about that under physical wellness or social wellness, but it's really coming up for me for occupational. The other
Yeah.
thing that's coming up for me is communicate. Because
Mhm.
Mhm.
sometimes when I'm traveling, my communication is not, I mean, we're human, like our schedules are off and things like that. So that was the other hashtag that was coming up for me is communicate. Um, and the words with kindness are coming up now
Mhm.
too. So
Mhm.
communicate with kindness.
You got this.
So yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So, Aeoliana, before we get out of here, can you share with our listeners and viewers how to find you, what they can get in contact with you for, and anything else you want to say to potential podcasters? We know a lot of people like to come here for that.
Absolutely. Like I said earlier, my website is www.topshelfvirtualservices.com. Everything is there. My freebie, which I think I'll send it to you guys. I don't know if I sent you the right one because I just revamped it. But it's on there. My blog is on there. Um, you have access to my newsletter. I have free resources. I have paid resources. I have workshops. I'm just finishing a second one here. I'm launching one in July, and I'm getting ready to do another one in August. The one I launched in July, the one I launched next month is going to be Kickstart Your Podcast. That's where all of the things are. And we'll get you in with all that stuff. I have a newsletter that I send out every Wednesday, a blog that goes out every Friday, and yeah, that's all the things. That's where you can find me, and I would love to help. Paid, free, I just love to help. Either way, anyway, and hopefully I will have my podcast by November. I
Okay.
haven't recorded, I haven't published anything, but that's my goal is by November.
You got this. Let us know when you published it.
I
Right?
will. I
Yes.
will.
If you'll tag us on social media, we'll share it.
I
So,
Absolutely.
will. I will.
right, we love uplifting women's voices and
Yeah.
their awesome work in the world. So, thank you so much for being with us today. We are so
Yes.
grateful to be connected and just delighted to know you and have this
I am
conversation.
so grateful for you guys. This has been wonderful and amazing, and I loved every minute of it. And I wish we could talk for another 3 hours because it's
Put
been
it in.
it's been so much fun, and it's been an honor to be here with you guys. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you
Absolutely.
for being here. We look
Yes.
forward to more. We'll
Yeah,
stay
we're staying connected.
so fun.
Yes.
So good.
Mm.
We
You
really
know,
could talk for
yeah.
hours.
And I really put, let's go ahead and put it in a lifetime. We'll add 3 hours. We have the retreats, we have books coming up, there's
Right?
podcasts, like so much more to connect and just grow, and our ladies are so amazing. Our guests are like,
Yes,
I want to talk to everybody. Yeah.
our authors and
Yeah.
I think about this last 3 years and really the resource library we've been building
Hmm.
and the things we've learned, the people we've met, and
Yeah.
if we don't know it, somebody we know knows it.
Yeah. And it's not even to like, it's not to boast. This is not a
No.
cool girls club. This is our table. You can't sit with us. This is so that, yeah, come sit with us. We don't have to always be the person helping, right? We know a lot of different people when their schedule is booked and busy or they're on do not disturb, there's somebody else.
Right.
And I'm really looking forward to seeing how it continues to grow.
Hey, me too. Anything else we need to shout out before we close this episode?
Well, you said you have some stuff. I know that Dr. Cynthia Phelps was talking about coming in at the end of the week, right? Do we have events to invite them? It is Wednesdays, and on Wednesdays we share. What do we have?
Well, the conference I'm at is closed
Okay.
already,
Okay.
right? And the Leaders Got same thing. Like
Okay.
these that I'm at right now are closed, but
Fair.
we've got all our links. I've got
Yeah.
my link tree, and
Yeah.
that you can get in our show notes to find out where we're going to be and what we're up to.
Yes.
And we'll be thinking about a gathering for Women Connecting Wisdom for
We have talked about it.
maybe September. So maybe
Mm.
around there when it cools
Mm.
off a little bit in hot Atlanta.
Right? Oh my goodness.
Right.
Yes, please stay hydrated. We're talking about self-care and occupational wellness, right? Stay hydrated. And I know I've talked about it. If you guys want to see the retail space, Shalo Glow retail space, and you have not been to Auburn Avenue yet, make sure you get over there. Come see us because we are transitioning. So 626. Oh, it is Shalo Glow's fourth birthday today. So, yes,
Happy birthday, Shaylo
thank
Glow.
you.
Happy
Yes,
birthday. Congrats. That's a
yes.
lot of work. A
Right?
lot of awesome,
Thank
a
you so
lot
much.
of awesome products, a lot of
Yes,
love. Yeah.
yes. And like you said, I'm grateful. I'm so grateful of, being able to help so many people with their wellness genuinely, and traveling across the country, popping up in New Jersey, popping up in North Carolina, and seeing Shalo Glow, empty Shalo Glow bottles. You could definitely
Right?
recycle them, right? But we're all about making sure that you ladies are plugged in, you and your families are well taken care of. So thank you for being here for episode 161 as we talk about occupational wellness, and looking forward to continuing the journey. We'll see you guys live at 5 next week, same place. I guess I said the time already, right? Same time.
It's okay.
In the meantime, be well, be wise, be whole. We'll talk to you soon.